Feel like I'm on a fucking Death Star. What? There's a stream was deleted on LinkedIn. Try creating a new system. Go live. Screw you. Okay. Oh, I can't. Oh, wow. It's not letting me. We're going to edit. We're going to go back to LinkedIn. We're going to click the little LinkedIn. We're going to, we're going to delete that on LinkedIn. And then we're going to try add it again. It'll just be like, oh, okay, I can do that. Save changes. No, oh, I can. I'm going to edit. Okay, sorry. LinkedIn page. Rat bastard commie mother. Okay. If it gives me 30 more seconds of grief, I'm gutting it like Jeffrey Dahmer. All right. Yeah. Don't welcome me back.
Live on the top of my screen.
That is. Does it say Porsche? Oh, what'd you say? Oh, I'm live on some stuff, yeah. I'm just trying to get the other one on. But it's not. Okay. Well, we've just given up entirely. Okay, we're live, folks. Let's just do this thing. Here's the opening soundtrack. Go. 2, 3, 4. All right, everyone out there, for the final, well, not the final, but for the final National Poetry Month installment of The Wound Speaks, I have with me this evening a dear friend, Greg Murray of mine, from way back in Hotlanta days, who's going to help me out and talk some poetry with us tonight. So everybody give him a warm round of applause and welcome, and just say hey to the folks, Greg.
What's up? What's up? I love now that I can call it Hotlanta because I don't live there.
Right, I know. Like I never, yeah, right. You get far enough away, you're like, that place is hot as hell. Oh yeah, but no. So also everybody remember, go to the Angels. You see the Angels Inspired linked person or the person in the chat. One of our mods is the same mod, just wearing different masks and faces. She's kind of a shapeshifter. Just go to the Angel Inspired page. It's the NPO we run. Click it, like it, share it, do all the fun stuff. Also like this, share this, subscribe to this, blah, 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 grip. This isn't for me. This is for the poetry. This is for the peoples, all right? All right. So starting off, basically kind of the thoughts of tonight, right, is I wanted to go over, because I know we're dealing with trauma, and how to write about trauma is kind of the Wound Speaks idea. We had a lot before about language and how we use language as a prosthetic to kind of grope at the world that we're reaching at, and it's never right, it's never perfect, but that's what we got. So we got to kind of make do with it, and metaphor and simile help us out with that. So, and if anybody in chat or watching live wants to talk with us about or ask questions about any of the poetic devices or linguistic tropes that we're talking about, totally fair game. But also just kind of want to talk about language at a bigger scale here. Like, how do you write about trauma? How do you write about something that's not a pleasant thing to talk about without getting into one of two things? Either something so dark that everybody's just like it's either indiscernible because it's so personal, or it's messed up, or I think this is a travesty of at least our current day and age, is this kind of this victim pornography thing where it's like, oh, these things happen to me, but and I want to sympathize with you, person who mom died of cancer and who X, Y, and Z. I really do. But you writing me a poem that says my mom died of cancer, my cat got hit by a dump truck, I need to know how you feel about that. We need words that communicate how that makes you feel, because I can't for the life of me put myself in anybody's heads. I've never been able to put myself in any of my ex-wife's heads and be like, why'd they do that? What you know what I mean? I really have never known what they've meant, not once. So the same thing when you have a traumatic event that you're trying to communicate. I'm using the humorous level to try to break the fact that we're talking about some not fun things. When you're talking about something personal that's a traumatic experience, first of all, play with it. Write it 100 times. Use the words like blocks of clay to push around. But second of all, like, you gotta find some other way to say it. Yeah, a metaphor, a metonym, something that symbolizes that. That's not just like the facts of the matter. Like on Thursday, November 22nd, 2014, my father died, which is true, right? But like, I mean, I can say that, but that's not a poetic communication. That's a factual communication. There's not much emotion anybody can pull from that. And so I just want to all of our aspiring poets out there, also send us your stuff, and I will read over it and tell you, hey, work on this, do this. This is not a freaking robin's nest, go fly and fail thing. But just be careful of putting all your traumas out there on a page. Is like, this is what's happened to me my whole life, and this happened, and this happened, this happened. Because when you do that, the world you're presenting it to will not be kind. They will not understand. You'll get trolls, and some might, but you'll get trolls, and now they're going to know everything about you. And so if you're not interested in making it something beautiful and working through it, really, I would just say, I mean, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but think about what could happen if you were to do that. Of course, totally, I'm not going to, be mean at all. I'm just going to help you write better, so. But yeah, any thoughts on that, Greg, before I read the first poem? Sorry to go so long.
No, I think that's really helpful. I like the way that you, talk about how you have to tell it slant. I mean, really, we don't come to poetry for the news, right, of what has happened. We come to it to feel it and understand it in a way that just grasps a little bit of that kind of indecipherable aspect of it and just gets a little piece of it. Maybe there's healing there. Maybe there's just like feeling it, or, giving yourself permission to feel it through language. So yeah, I love what you said. But yeah, it's not a news report.
I think the whole stream just went down, dude. I don't know if you're still there. I think the whole stream just went. You said no. Yeah. You said you were not there for the news or whatever, and like all my whole screens, I have the whole setup started. Okay, we were getting too close to the truth, and the CIA had to send a drone over words, and they didn't get us, but they were close. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think we're. I mean, you froze for me for a good, 20
it was
seconds.
like 30. It was 30 seconds at least for both of us on my side. So I think you were at the point where you were saying that you don't go to the news for poetry or poetry for the news.
Yeah, exactly. I think we get a chance though to feel it. The goal is, I like how you're talking about telling it slant or through metaphor or metonym or anything but the literal fact of it.
Right.
But it's not always just to kind of avoid the feeling. I think a lot of times it's actually to really feel it in a way through language that's special and that can even sublimate it, make it beautiful in a way that nothing else can.
No, absolutely. So just on that point too, I think that's exactly what I think the program as a whole, the trauma, the veteran writing stuff I've done, the trauma stuff done too, is to give you the linguistic, because when we speak words, we make meaning of the world around us. And these traumatic things, these either PTSD things or these really horrible memories you don't want to think about, right? You can, you're like, you have to get more into it. You have to find another way, a new narrative to make out of it, to make it your own, to incorporate it in yourself. And that's where the poetic language comes in, because you can't just, John Smith, 123 Main Street. Well, like that's not getting you through that. We can see you're in some emotional trouble, buddy, but you're not working through it. And so playing with language gives that kind of thing. So let's start with the first poem, just so we don't keep you past your bedtime. All right, so this is my buddy Dwayne Greg, guys. Speaking of trauma stuff, he passed away of a brain tumor in 2019. One of my best buddies, different Greg, Dwayne Greg, guys, not this Greg. This Greg's not zombie Greg. This Greg is alive and well. But he had a brain tumor, and he lived out in Texas. And so he's like, they gave me 2 weeks to live. I feel like crap. Oh my God. I was like, going out there. So I went out there, and he turned found a great surgeon in Houston that like did this surgery and took out a third of his brain. And like, he was okay. They're like, you probably got like 3 weeks to live. The dude lived for like a year and 6 months. And like, with half of his brain cut out, and it was so he still had all his coherency, but he started having his brain rewire itself, so he was having vivid memories of like 3 and 4 and 5-year-old life, and he was 77. Like, he was like, dude, like, and we just be able to replay whole days in his childhood. It was crazy, yeah. So, but this is called Magic. It's from his book we've read some before called Praise Music. Okay, Magic. This sleight of hand called life. The wives we make disappear. The children we pull out of hats. The parents who, over time, we saw painlessly in half. And the complicated knots that untie themselves. The doves and serpents pulled from Jehovah's empty sleeve to misdirect the mischief of our making. The compassion we feel for a rag in the road, believing it to be a squashed puppy. Or the cock killed for Aeschylus, to thank Houdini God, our chained magician, drowning in his lockbox. Sorry, I kind of butchered the Aeschylus part, but that's like, this is like, it's so like the compassionate feeling, right? It gets to this human level. Like, first of all, it's the very first thing. I'm so jealous. Like, I would cut my right arm off if I could write like this guy. But like the wives we make disappear, with the children we pull out of hats, the parents who over time we saw in half, like, some point.
That's really good.
Right. And so, but down here, right, the compassion, the misdirect we make, with misdirect the mischief of our making. Like, we make mischief in our own lives by what? By misperceiving things. Because we have flawed human perception, by thinking things are there when they're not, or aren't there when they are. And it talks the image we get for this is the compassion we feel for a rag in the road when we think it's a squash puppy.
Good.
Like, I mean, okay, so let's just say we're trying to make an image or a metaphor or a metaphor. Okay, let's say we've let's go back to like middle school, right? Well, there you have your girlfriend, and she's like, oh man, like my mom died, so I can't go hang out or whatever, right? And you're like, you're an 8th grader and you're in love with this goth girl with a nose ring and body glitter, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry your mom died. Like, what can I do? Everything. You feel like why would this girl lie to me? Her mom died, right? And it turns out that no, her mom's fine. She's just banging the football player. And so she just lied to you. But in that moment when she was telling you that compassionate story, you actually felt compassionate. And so it's like just to have the squash puppy is very sad, but like the rag is so innocuous and so like perfect for the comparison, I thought. Sorry, Greg, go ahead, man.
No, man, I'm taking it in. I love how the poem itself is just kind of aware of its own sleight of hand and the power that you have when you're writing to put the puppy in the road
without actually making it be there. Exactly right.
Without it being there. And I honestly, sometimes I reflect on the way that I translate my own reality into poetry or the way that I tell it. And I want to make sure that I'm telling it in the right direction, whether I'm telling the pile of in what is it, the rag
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
puppy, that I have it clear on which is the real one in my experience and which one's the sleight of hand that is the artifice, that becomes part of the poem.
Right.
It's a really good poem, how it goes back and forth with that.
And there's one level of it that, right, like the artifice is made apparent to show the sleight of hand that could happen, right? But at the same time, and this is just, I'll throw this out to anybody who's listening, but to you, Greg, firstly, is like, if you're writing this poem and you actually had an experience where you thought a rag was a puppy that was in squashed, and you swerved out the road and got out of the car and it was a freaking rag, like, is it any less real of a poem to write the poem about you swerving off a road to avoid the puppy and write a different poem about the puppy being the rag? I mean, I don't know. I mean, don't post on Twitter like, oh, Fruffles is gone. Don't do that. But like,
right. It's crazy, man. The thing that for some reason in my brain, the line that pops in there, I think it was the poet Charles Bernstein, but in one of his poems was like, I want a poem as real as an Orange Julius, which I really always love that line, because it's like, it's also kind of ironic. I mean, because is that real? That's not even real. Like what does that mean?
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I also remember from my childhood to go there, man, I love an Orange Julius,
It's something concrete. It has memory ties to it. That's kind of one of its own thing, right?
Yeah, it does. But in itself, I don't even know if there's even actual oranges in it.
Oh, I doubt it. I mean,
right?
Half the crap wheat doesn't have actual anything. Like, freaking, okay, like, people are up and down on this, but like, banana flavored Laffy Taffy, tastes nothing, whether you love it or hate it, tastes nothing like any banana that's ever been created or dissolved or anything.
That's right.
And yet it exists.
But the reality of that Laffy Taffy, you could put that in a poem for me.
You should. Hey, somebody take it out there.
Because it does. It like has all these associations with it, and it brings with it so much. And in many ways, it's one of the realest fucking types of candy.
Right. Because it's so there. It's like everybody knows what you're talking about. It's an obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, cool.
That's dope. Great poem.
Oh, I love this guy's stuff. There's one that I did a couple weeks ago. I'll share with you later, called Cultural Heritage Map, that is just want to like give up writing poetry because I read that. All right. All right. So here's one of mine. Let me embiggen this a bit to get a little more in there. All right. It's called The Goddess Sees Her Reflection in a Wash Basin. I'm going to move out a bit so nobody. Okay, there we go. Wormwood made her moonshine. The good book lied. The last days came first, came in the fertile years, each one abreast. Her lips made words to plant a new nation, full of old county dirt, before the weather was on her body, burning like a broad lawn, her hair like drawn flames. Her mother's screams, once wood, are now dust and oranges. She notes how limbs break mid-flow, like a misstep, like a shifting line, whitening even the fullest fires. Her arm is, just as night is, silence. Dark acres and white clover are a gesture towards the curve of her bended knee. So that's one of my newer ones I've done. Just like so I have this whole goddess thing that we haven't really read any of the stuff I've done so far in oh yeah, apparently people in Jamaica, where my wife's from, and she's from St. Vincent, but she hates when I say Jamaica. Um they say face basin and not wash basin, which is very interesting. So that's another lyric somebody can steal out there, face basin. But so these goddess poems, I have this idea of this like mythic goddess who's like kind of had to come back to America in the last 20 years or so, and she's not very happy. She comes to the South, right? She has to like try to pre-qualify for a mortgage, and you have to deal with all those souls that got sent down after Katrina. She's a little irritated with stuff, and kind of has some little experiences the collection's about. So this is one of those, and it's kind of just, I guess, what just talking about, I guess, Southern Gothic or Southern trauma, Southern tragedy, right? With all the history of all the horrible shit that's gone in the South forever, was kind of trying to, talk about like the fertility and the infertility and the, just the whole kind of ethos of the culture there, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, Greg. If you want to say anything, I can talk more about it. If you
No, I am having a lot of thoughts and feelings about this poem. It's really gorgeous. I really admire the way that you are breaking those lines and just creating a lot of tension between them, and just opening up new meanings with it. For some reason, I mean, and I'm a little new to the poem, but it is a poem about tragedy, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason too, there's a lot of beauty, like a reflection about the goddess and her beauty in it as well. And like in that respect, like there's a poem too by Elizabeth Bishop where she's about washing her lover in the I think a tin wash basin. That is like just the most intimate poem. I think it's called The Shampoo, maybe, or something.
Might be. I don't have the Elizabeth catalog in my head anymore. But yeah. I'm
no, but
poem. Yeah.
such a great poem. And but I feel like this act and of washing is just it's so rich. It's kind of like one of those objects that brings so much with it. It's a great place to tell this story and to share this feeling, right? It's an intimate place.
It is, right? And I thought I was trying to do the whole, I mean, both like the whole like through a glass darkly now I see thing, right? And the wash basin, Paul with the eye shard in the wash basin. But just kind of as like a starting point, right? Because the real thing is the goddess is seeing herself and she's seeing, I mean, so the whole thing is like the goddess comes back to America in the South recently, and the goddess realizes that she also is America. And so she sees a reflection in all the people. And so she's not, and so I guess like thinking back to that last or the last stanza on the first page, right? The sorry, up there. The one with full of old county dirt before the weather was on her body like a broad lawn, her hair like flames, her mother's screams. Just trying to gesture back to not, so our mother's screams once wood are now dust. Nothing particularly in mind, like nothing that my mom's still alive and kicking it in Cheyenne, but something about this idea of the goddess. And I guess one way to deal with trauma, and we'll get into this maybe with some of Greg's poems, Greg Geiss's poems, and maybe some of yours too, actually, because I think there's a couple points in there. One way to deal with trauma that humans have always dealt with trauma is by mythologizing it. Like if there's something you can't understand, well, Zeus did it. It was the lightning bolts, and like, yeah, Aeneas found a cave, and then I found Rome. That's great.
Yeah.
And so kind of trying to give like a mythic point to it, but making it also tangible. I mean, it's again like I don't even have words to describe it exactly. I was going for that like kind of like there's something really freaking heavy here that happened, and it's in the South, and it's we kind of can guess what happened, but we don't have to go all the way into like showing the bodies hanging from trees or anything like that. We can kind of get a picture and see a reflection of how it's like affecting the speaker, who's the goddess, I guess was.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But so you want to do it now? You feel like one? It's embiggened. It's really embiggened.
Yeah.
Can you read
yeah.
it from your phone, or do you want? Okay, you can see it good.
I'm having a little trouble with my screen seeing it, but I can pull it up. Oh, now I'm losing it though. It loses my face.
How about
I
I
guess
do
you
that?
don't need to see me when I read it.
No, you don't. I can actually hear. Here's what I can do. No, you're fine. I will actually hear. I will take you off in the layout and make it bigger. How's that work? I can still. I hope they can still hear you. Hang on. Yeah, if I put you back on, yeah, you're still on, so they should be able to hear you if you even hit
Okay.
back on, so they can hear your audio. If you see
Which
it better
one do
now,
you?
I can make it
Yeah,
bigger.
I pulled it up on another page.
Okay, okay, I can still hear you, so you get Railroad Hammer, man.
Okay, okay. Yeah. When I laid track, I was west of off put. I was decentered, unstable, crooked. Luck was a leg iron clanging open from the lip of a freight car. At 30 a month, the ache was heathen, but all are brethren that feel alike, that alike cease to feel. Let no man swing my hammer, take her shoulder gently with mocking intent. Let no man at my firewater. I had a blatant disregard for one or more of the cardinal directions, was low on virtue. My sleeve was sewn with bowers, but if you, high-minded, in your simple skirts, trimmed with hog mud, chance from your plot upon my body shot through, kneel in solemn prayer to an unknown savage, and in my fists place flowers.
Oh shoot, that's great, man. Sorry, I skipped. I actually like. Okay, cool. It's back up now. We're good. Yeah. So say something about it if you want to say something about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wrote a series of poems where I was kind of speaking of dealing, with trauma. I was imagining that I was doing trades at different times in American history,
Right.
in order to try to write about my experience, to write about myself. It just, in this poem, it's as someone who, yeah, was working on the railroad, and just trying to understand that life, and what it was like, and of course, trying also to interpret my own experience. But yeah, I also have always been kind of captivated by like they call it, synecdoche, when we talk about like a railroad hand, or like just something that stands in for the person. And I think railroad hammer, just imagining that laying
like it
track.
is the whole railroad at once. Like the object itself stands in for the whole item, for the whole series of things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really, if you think about just traumatic memory in that too, right? It's like you have these little glips or blips of very intense moments that you have some access to, and it kind of stands in for everything else that you have holes about, or that has been compressed into that with emotion or whatever. So I think it does. I think Synecdoche does a great lot of work here, like as the right device to use to do this.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's a kind of mythologizing too. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely was doing that so much with the poems that I was thinking of, that was, all of them together were called Trade Secrets, but it was just thinking about like myself doing different trades. And it is, it's a mythologizing.
And that's why I thought too. I felt really, and this again, this is, I mean, I read them yesterday, right? But like there's mythologizing of something that I love, which is the American working class man getting shit on by the company store, out there doing his job anyway, freaking Casey Jones, the whole deal, you know what I mean? And just like, I just felt like there was a really earthy, where, like you see in that movie Rudy, where he goes plays for Notre Dame, but his whole
Oh, yeah.
family's steel workers, like that kind of mythological grime on it. And I really like that about that. And it goes to trauma too, about like generational trauma, if you will, or also capitalistic trauma. You can call it whatever you want, I guess. But yeah, no, that's really cool. If I can say real quick, I just love I love a lot of lines, but I love the I had a blatant disregard for one or more of the cardinal directions. Even that clause is just like I was.
Oh, thanks, man.
Well, so I mean, I think I know what you're trying to say about that. Like, what is there anything particular you want to expound upon regarding that line?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this feeling, especially in the West, when you kind of mythologize in the West of, you're heading west, or there's always this, you're always migrating or heading in some direction. But I think the experience being written about here is like, there's also the grind.
Right.
And, cardinal directions, like there's also cardinal, like being, the cardinal virtues, and like this sort of
Cardinal sins too. Yeah.
Yeah, cardinal sins, right? And like, where am I headed? And I think this sort of just expresses, like, in a way that it would be different saying, like, I didn't give a fuck where I was going.
Right.
It's like, it's like saying,
because you kind of did, but like,
right,
only to some things. Like if they were like, you know what's over there? There's a Buddhist shrine that has 20 monks, and you have to whittle out a pencil before you can sit there. I mean, even though that'd be cool to do, especially nowadays, you're like, I think the brothel with the winches. That's east, right? Or even just the whole like I mean, it's happened to both of us, right? You're going somewhere, you're on life's journey, you're gonna get there, you got more, and all of a sudden you get stuck. And so you're like, so like even in like being stuck in the grind on the freaking railroad or whatever, right? It's like there's been times where like it seems like our compass maybe only has 3 points left, and we've gone as far and the way we're going right now as we can go, and that's disconcerting because now I have to turn around and figure out another way to get shit.
Yeah, I mean, I was always fascinated by the West, and like how a lot of prisoners were building the railroad, which was allowing you to go further west, but the people that were building it weren't the ones taking the trains. I mean, you're building like a means for someone else to get across the country.
Right.
And it's interesting. Also, they were often creating towns, and then that they'd live in while they built track for the next mile. And then they get on the train and then move to the next place and then build it. And it just feels like such a rich, like, metaphor for, a lot of grinding that we end up doing, like in this society that we don't necessarily see as
right.
As
and so let me even take that to one, like, so out of the American context, maybe the more mythological context, I think we could look at it in the same way, maybe, is back in continental Europe as well as Britain, right? They're building these massive cathedrals, right? And it's a work that when they lay the first stone, you have a mason, a quarry, cutting stones and making them fit perfectly, and then dragging them however you are. And they know when they start cutting those stones, they're not going to even see a wall put up.
No.
Their son, who's also a Mason, is not going to see a wall put up. Maybe their great-great-grandson will actually get to see the cathedral completed in its glory. Like, it probably won't even look like a cathedral in the guy who's being tasked to do this thing, right? And it's like the same way, and it's obviously times change with stuff, but like the same that we're mythologizing, like or it is a mythology, like Wild West, Go West, young man, and building something for those who come after us, even though it's slave labor in a lot of ways, right? Is like, except that what we get is a train that's toting a bunch of cows and chickens that smell like crap instead of a Gothic cathedral.
Yeah, that's.
But
I love all those.
I think the impetus is exactly the same though. I just wanted to, like, man, if somebody came to me and was like, yeah, okay, guess what, tomorrow you're gonna cut stones. They gotta be perfect, otherwise you're in trouble. I'm like, for what? A cathedral. Oh, cool. Where is it? And we don't know quite yet. Okay. Well, can I see it? Oh no, you're never gonna see it. In fact, like, your son's not gonna see it. And in fact, your grandson's not gonna see it. But it'll happen.
Yeah.
I would have some choice words for the,
Yeah.
for the foreman.
Well, it is always interested me too, like prisoners, slaves building, and like what your relation to your labor is and to the output of it. Not, like I love what you're adding too, like just not even seeing the fruits of the labor, but
Somebody
also
else getting rich
it not
off it
being
too.
yours.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even own the license plate you print out.
Yeah. Oh man.
In fact, because of the way the government works, even the person who gets that license plate and pays money to the government for it doesn't actually own it. The government owns it anyways. With taxes and registration and stuff. All right. I saw somebody come by. You still got more time, or you got? How are you doing?
Yeah, I've got a little bit more time, Aaron. I'm sorry that I'm.
No, you're fine, man. I will carry on. I will carry on in your honor, man, and we can make this the first of many things, okay, brother? So before I kick you to the curb, why don't I get to one of your other poems? How about that?
All right.
If you let me share was let me see. No, the other one, the stolen one.
that's the.
Oh, it was that one. It was Killingham, right?
You want me to do Killingham?
Was Killingham the stolen one, or is Killingham not?
Yeah, it is. It is.
All right, that's what I was looking for. Looking for the stolen one.
Can you actually? Yeah, let's keep it. Let's keep it that size, and I can go ahead and read it. Dude, Aaron, I really appreciate you you having me on, man.
Hey, you're more than welcome, man. I miss this stuff, and we'll keep it going. This will be the first of many things. Is that the little one?
That is.
Hi,
yeah, that's
little
my son
precious
back there.
one. I just turned 5 months, right?
Yeah. Evan.
Life is a blessing. That's awesome. All right, well, now have him do earmuffs before you read Killingham.
I know. Oh, hey, buddy. Okay. All right.
Take it away.
Killingham. When I worked in the yards, I dreamed the wrong dreams. I'd held the harried heads, heard the shrill shrieks, baled the red floors. To every man his daily chores. The sack lunch hunching, speckled on its high ledge. The sludge where we weary, sloshed, smoked, cussed, pledged. Even the brakes slashed off by stolid foremen. The insults lobbed, their pins pulled with deft gestures, their heft a constant messenger. But these I recall with bored acrimony and shelve in the deepest craters of the mind. What sends my sleep into a craven spin, what tugs my fingers to a mangled fist, I know the beast I could have been.
But
I might have missed a word there.
You did, because I was trying to move your face and I just moved the page. So You got it. It was arid. The mind arid was what it was.
Arid. Okay, yeah.
Arid's the mystery word for the day, guys. Hey. But
Oh, thanks, Portia. Yeah, I see your note.
yeah. So the one thing I wanted to say, just kind of to bring things back before I know you gotta go. I won't take you too much longer. Is just kind of to tie this in. I mean, there's a lot there with again the workmanship and the the working classes, American mythology, and this the steel mill shop and the assembly line. But the bit at the end, right? I know the beast I could have been. Something I want to talk about with dealing with trauma and talking about trauma and talking about lives, right? Is both acknowledging like our original sin that we human beings are pieces of crap who deserve to be beat down, and but for us striving extremely hard, we should like be all dragged off the street corner. But also the idea too that when you're talking about something like trauma or something serious like this, right? I'm gonna swear, so maybe earmuffs him or whatever. Is like it's okay to say I am the asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And to be like, and to honestly be like, I'm not saying that you are the beast you are, but I'm saying the point is like to say something like, wow, like that would make people very uncomfortable. Because that's the truth about it. And to have that kind of ownership of it is kind of like owning the traumatic event and owning like, maybe I don't know everything about this, or if I tell people about this trauma or write this trauma down, people might think certain things about me, but like, I'm owning it. And I know that I'm a flawed human who needs redemption. And I know that, well, I hope it's coming, but it doesn't. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd be like, well, I failed that test every day, So.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that way, that angle, and that way that you're putting it. I think there are a couple things that really come to mind now, kind of reflecting on this one.
Yeah.
One of them is that Sinclair's The Jungle had a big effect on me. That yeah, I mean, I'm sure Aaron, but for your listeners, the book about how the sausage is made, literally.
Right.
And I
all.
just kind of imagined that people don't want to know how it's made. But I think the other thing that it makes me think of is people are willing to put chains on themselves so that they can put them on others. And I think we see that like super relevant in this, capitalist corporate America and everything.
It's really just, it's globalist. It's a new globalist plantation, really, is how I look at it. But yeah, America's a microcosm of that 100%.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I shouldn't even limit it that way.
No, it's grown. It's grown since we last talked.
But right. But I really think that that kind of reflection and even just imagining working in a killing yard, and the way in which like we're kind of asked to do that, and like you said, that kind of that stain, that kind of original sin, just from time to time it seems worthwhile to reflect on, like in order not to become that.
Right, but to own it and put it up front and be like, basically like, even though I would like to think it never would have happened, like all the that you say, like we would have been the Nazis in the guard towers, not the ones saying no and getting executed. Like that's just, we would have been the freaking commissars, not the people in the gulag. Like, we would have said, I mean, it's terrible. Like I like to think we wouldn't. I hope that you and I are sensitive and like, enough that we'd be like, you know what, put on the bandana, give me a cigarette, take me away, but who knows, man? We have to acknowledge that part of us, I guess, right? It's that possibility always.
Makes me shudder, but yeah.
But I think that's that beast line, right? And that mangled fist line is what I got. I got that was kind of that like, that, I mean, maybe not the jungle, but Avenged Sevenfold, like Backcountry. He who makes a beast out of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man. That's from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, right? But
all right. That's a
Yeah.
good. I mean,
Or
that's
Hunter S. Thompson. I'm not sure if it's from that movie. It's from Hunter S. Thompson. But yeah, but like the idea that there's some way to, like, if we embrace the beastliness too much, we become unhuman too. And so
yeah,
we have to really balance that line of, okay, Lord, heal me from my imperfections, but also I'm not going to pick up the club and start chasing puppies.
yeah, right.
So, but yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
All right, man. I hear
You
him.
guys. Ah.
Hey, I love you, man. Much love to your wife, your in-laws, your children. We'll be in touch soon, brother. God bless you.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. Love you too, brother.
All
Take
right.
care.
Be
Bye,
safe on
buddy.
this trip, guys. Have a good meal.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, brother.
All right, later.
Bye-bye. All right, well, the party's not over, folks. That was only a few of the poems we got in. So if anybody has more questions for me or wants to yell at me about anything, now is the time. We got more poems, more poems. You get a poem. You get a poem. You get a poem. All right. We're going to do another Greg Geist poem. It's called Job's Children. I want to talk about this one a little bit. Again, the idea about tragedy and children, right? So, Greg's child, and he unabashedly like knows this. In let me find the book. Hope this is it. Nope, that's not it. Oh, I found it. Okay, Praise Music. This is a book called Praise Music. If everybody looks at my screen, let me embiggen it. Praise Music. The art for this book was painted by my best buddy Greg Geist, not Greg Murray right there, but Greg Geist's at that point in time 7-year-old autistic son. And he had autism, some health disorder, a lot, very complicated, very difficult early life. Now he's doing well. He's flourishing in his own way. And this poem, as well as one more that we'll read, I think, is a meditation that Greg was very involved in of the tragedies in life that are both beautiful and tragic at the same time, especially when you have an autistic son. I have a child with disability, and some things people say, or the way they treat them, or the way that people you think should love them diminish them and don't want what's best for them because they don't think they can do it, like the dehumanizing of it. And that's traumatic for them, I'm sure, in some ways, but traumatic for the parents to be like, I want to, run you over with a freight train. But this is, I think, just so think about it in this context. But again, Job's children, biblical reference, right? Job, God, and Satan Satan's like, your boy Job seems pretty faithful there. I'm gonna tempt you. I'm gonna torture him, and I'm gonna do stuff to him. And God's like, he's got faith, it's okay. And then by the end of it all, God's actually putting some torments on him because he's done so well. It's an interesting theological question we can maybe talk about in a bit, but just think about it in the idea of Job in the Bible as well as a parent today, and like what does God want from me? What's suffering? Like what's going on? What's the purpose of this? And like we were talking about a second ago about original sin, suffering, trying to just be better and not the piece of crap we all are. All right. I can make it bigger now so y'all can see better. Cool. Job's children. I imagine him pushing out from his mother's body the way a swimmer pushes off from the side of a pool. Never mind that at 7 he still can't swim, or was born blue, choking on the same air he flies through now on his big wheel. Forgive his ungainliness, the awkward flapping when he runs, the tiptoeing and blind hollering that follows him into an elevator, or as he dives headlong into the grass, or head first down a playground slide. Overlook, please, the inexhaustible mantras and cartoon litanies, meltdown words and phrases canned in the brain's jar, as if to say, I am what I repeat. He does not need to be reminded that he is different. That is what other children are for. But if I try hard enough, I can imagine him squirming in Jesus' lap, The great disruptor of routine, come to bless the automatic child. The odd meets God, the child who cannot be contained, now stuck in heaven's chimney, like a fishbone in God's throat. One of Job's unnamed first batch pledged on a dare to lay away some awful truth, never wondering, even once, how life could be so pitiless, or how this damaged good could breed such peculiarity, or provoke such love. Like, just so, okay, there's so much there, right? But I just really want to focus on um, this last line of what this last line is doing, right? So it's kind of here. So the whole theme of God too, right? To some extent with Job or King Lear in Shakespeare or Moses to some extent too, right? Is cursing God for your misfortunes. And it happens all over the Bible. Jesus is pretty much the only one who doesn't do it, but he's like, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's as close he gets. Everybody else tends to do it. Moses certainly had a bout of that. And so this is a prayer at first, right? About like God forgive him, or somebody, maybe the world forgive him, maybe God forgive him, maybe the world, maybe himself forgive his child for not for his ungainliness, for his flapping his arms when he runs. Lexi does that. For tiptoeing or hollering for no reason. And if he goes into an elevator, he gets freaked out and he hollers, right? Or he dives headlong into the grass or headfirst down a playground slide, right? The exhaustible mantras, the saying the same things over and over and over. The litanies of like words he's taking from cartoons and repeats over and over and over and over and over, right? Like they're canned in the brain's jar. But down here, when it goes, one of Job's unnamed first batch pledged on a dare to lay away some awful truth, never wondering even once how life could be so pitiless, or how this damaged good could breed so much peculiarity. So let's just not talk about the last line yet, but right? So basically Job's children, right? So since Job has many children, right? And this obviously is a new child, so it's not, you know what I'm saying? This is not one of just child was not born during Job in the Bible. It's a way to say one of Job's many children who hadn't had a name yet in the Bible, but now has one, who was born on earth now, right? Pledged on a dare to lay away some awful truth, to like a layaway at a store. So like this kiddo knows, or should know, normally would know, so much ridicule, so much suffering, so much abnormality, so much shame, so much of how the world is full of people who are hateful, sinful, pieces of crap, and don't care about anyone, even the most vulnerable, right? Like, and he has to hold that thing in him. He can't defend himself or whatever. He's never like, you know what, you're the real jerk or whatever, right? Because, and this is what the next line says, he never wondering even once how life could be so pitiless, or how this damaged good, which is the kid himself, could breed so much peculiarity. And just speaking from my own experience with my kiddo who has a disorder like this, right? People would say horrible stuff to them, and I'd be grabbing a freaking baseball bat and trying to chase down a 5-year-old, not literally, but, and she'd be like, oh, hi, thanks. And they would just, what? Like, I called you stupid, or I called you idiot, or I said you have a lazy eye or whatever. And she'd be like, oh, thanks, you have blonde hair. And just the complete innocence, the absolute innocence of her perception of the world and of this child's perception of the world too, right? Like, never, the child never wonders how life could be so pitiless. I'm sure we all out there, at least most of us, right? Sometimes like, God, why is this God today? Why my car broke down? Why I don't have a job? Why this? Why that? Why this happened? Why that have to happen? Why is life so damn cruel, God? Why is it? Why is life so pitiless? How could you make life so pitiless, God? Right? But the person who receives more of that unwarranted, just bad human behavior, right, doesn't even realize it. He can never wonder that once, right? Or how he breeds so much peculiarity. And then on the last bit, right, or provoke such love. And not just from his father, mother, family, from God, obviously, but also like provoke the love. Like if you come up and call somebody a stupid, dumb, ugly, fat head with gangly teeth and a lazy eye, and they're like, "Oh, it's okay. You have blonde hair. I think you're pretty cute, or cool, or whatever." Right? That's gonna be that's a different way to handle a playground bully or somebody who's defaming you in public. I've seen kiddos do that. I've seen my kiddos do that. Be like, "Oh, you're tall," and they're just like, "What?" And I'm not saying that provokes love necessarily, but it doesn't provoke a fight. It doesn't provoke a negative response. It provokes at least introspection and wondering, like, peculiarity, like, what is this I'm thinking right now? And so, but just the way that it takes it back to the way both God loves Job, he was the most beloved of God, ended up coming back around, and Job's suffering is done, and God loves God again, right? Absolutely, Grandpa Charles, absolutely. And so it kind of brings everything. The son, being the son of Greg here, right? Back in fold with how it provokes so much love from him and the family there. Also, the son and the father is in God the Son and God the Father. And the creation on earth, though we're imperfect, provokes so much love and grace, right? And so I just think that last line, just sitting there by itself, 4 little words, like, great poem, great job, in my opinion. All right. Well, let's march on, folks. Well, that's one we already went to. This one's a bit, I'll read that one. It's called In the Hospital, but it's a bit more like complicated. So, yeah, we're going to do, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 more for sure. We're going to do a little palate cleanser here. This is another Greg Geist poem, one of my favorites. It's sincere and it's silly, but it's a comic relief one. Like, this guy had the best sense of humor, obviously. So I think this one's hilarious. And there's a lot of lyricalness in play about it. We'll talk about how it's also kind of tragic, but after the sad stuff about the kids and trauma, we'll read this one, and then I'll read a poem that I wrote for Greg Geist. All right. So this one is called, let me begin it a bit here. The Blessing of the Animals. And this is an epigraph here. It's a quote from a Newsweek article on October 17th, 2017. The Newsweek article said, "Cannibal chimp snatches newborn and eats it." Nature's mirror shows St. Francis barefoot, tonsured, preaching to the birds. For all the good it did, they never got the word. The ark debauched its creatures 2 by 2. They fled, they bred. What else were they to do? The flood of irony creation could awake was just a little taste of what a better artist might have made. A world full cooked and not half baked. The labyrinth of human nature, its noisome twists and turns, was one twist short where Uncle Monkey was concerned. To see the world for what it is, the way our gardening parents never did. Their story was, it dropped, we ate it, then we hid. Of all the beasts remanded from the fall, it was St. Chimp who rallied soonest to the cause. A monk who followed neither order nor the law, but rocked the ark and drowned poor nature, God and all. So, a little bit well there, right? So first of all, it's very lyrical, right? It's playing with almost like a nursery rhyme, right? But like you all realize, I hope if you don't, you're gonna soon realize that chimpanzees will grab their babies and just devour them whole. They'll break them in half like a freaking pomegranate and eat them. Doesn't matter if it's daddy chimp, mommy chimp, little chimp babies running around, they'll just, for who knows why, they will do that. And so we have here a comparison again talking about the fall, about Adam and Eve. We get to that down here in the bit, right? So if we could say like a very good, clever 2-liner or 4-liner to talk about what Adam and Eve did, right? To see the world for what it is the way our gardening parents never did. Their story was it dropped, we ate it, then we hid. So again, there's so much going on here. To see the world for what it is. What was the fruit of the tree, right? The knowledge of good and evil. To see the world for what it is. To see the world for the evil, right? You had unveiled eyes and you saw the world for what it was. It wasn't like as gods. It was like you see the world for the semi-hell it is, right? It's just clever, I think, to call them our gardening parents, Adam and Eve, right? From the Garden of Eve, right? A lot of wordplay there. And then their story, so the story of Adam and Eve, right, is it dropped, we ate it, then we hid. So the apple fell from the tree, or they picked it from the tree, right? They ate it, and then they, covered themselves up with fig leaves or whatever, or then they actually got exiled from the garden. It's a very catchy kind of way to say that story, right? So now we get to nature. Nature's a little different than humans because, first of all, animals don't have free will. Animals don't have, and I hope this isn't controversial, they don't have eternal human souls. You're not going to see your pooch Fluffy up in heaven. Probably. You can argue me out theology if you want, but point being is animals don't have free wills. They have a different kind of soul than humans do. That's what St. Francis, our top saint here, said, at least. But you have St. Francis of Assisi, who was always painted in Catholic, statues and stuff, right? He's always barefoot in a little monk robe, a tonsure, right? He always has all the animals because he was like the Dr. Dolittle of Catholic saints. He like calmed the wolf down and went to a lion's den and could talk to the birds and they would talk to him and he could like understand them or whatever, like Dr. Dolittle of the Catholic world. And so it's just funny again, right? So Nature's Mirror shows Francis. So Nature's Mirror, a picture on the wall, right? A picture in a church, shows St. Francis barefoot in his monk garments, right? Preaching to the birds. And he says, well, for all the good it did, like they never got the word. Again, word being the word of God, preaching, right? It's funny. But like the animals didn't get the message to stop being so mean, stop the murders, stop the raping, stop the things the animals just tend to do. The arch debauched its creatures 2 by 2, right? The ark, right? Had 2 creatures of each kind, one male, one female, so they can go multiply. Debauched is a funny word here. It means like to have lascivious intercourse, right? So the ark is disgorging creatures 2 by 2 to go run away from the ark and repopulate the earth, spread your seed and multiply, right? Which is not something that St. Francis would say the members of his congregation should be doing if they were humans, right? So the labyrinth of human nature, the noisome twists and turns, was one twist short where Uncle Monkey was concerned. So basically in most human societies, most human cultures throughout history, we have a thing against parricide, regicide, and, well, genocide too, but parricide, regicide, and, like, infanticide. Like, if you go kill Paul, who has a nice car down the street, you're going to go to jail and you might get the death penalty, right? But our human will, our sense of family and good and wrong, right and wrong, and well-being and morality, right, has very special levels of disdain and disgust for people who kill their parents, kill their children, kill family members on purpose. And so the difference here is that Uncle Monkey, and again, Uncle Monkey, a family member, right, associating with that, right, didn't quite get that whole last twist on the moral compass of humanity, even though Darwin says chimps and humans are basically the same thing. Well, Uncle Monkey didn't get that last little finishing touch on his moral compass. So he didn't see the world the way our gardening parents did. He didn't have free will. He didn't have a moral compass. He never saw the world as gods or whatever, right? So they dropped, we ate and hid. And then at the end, Mr. Chimp still left over from the fall of man, right? He rallied soonest to the call. The monk who followed neither order nor the law, but rocked the ark. Again, like rock the boat, right? Like rock the ark. Like, okay, if you're one of 2 chimps on the ark, right? And your job is to procreate and have more chimp babies, right? If you get off with mommy chimp and there's Mr. Monk or Uncle Chimp, and Uncle Chimp and mommy chimp start having chimp babies, and you eat them all, that kind of defeats the purpose of the ark. The same thing if you meet Auntie Chimp, if your Uncle Chimp on the ark. Kind of messes with it. And then drown poor nature, right? If you drown poor nature, so if you have chimps on the ark and they eat each other, or one eats the other one, so now they can't have more chimps, right? Whole idea of nature is continuing through the ark, right? Would have drowned with, not the ark itself, but with the idea of saving that species, just like those unicorns I hear, right? So, again, it's a super freaking duper clever poem. I love this guy. He's great. I guess we're getting long here. Let me read the last poem. This is my poem to my best friend, Dwayne Greg Guys here. It's a bit long. If anybody wants to ask questions about it, I'll do it. If not, I'll read it and maybe talk briefly about it. It's hopefully self-explanatory. If anybody wants to go longer or whatever, I can keep going. I got time. But if we've had an hour, so that's enough, let me know. It's the last Saturday of Poetry Month, so I'll have a little sip of coffee here and keep going, but I'll read this poem next. If anyone wants to message your chat and say, keep going, do more of a poem or whatever, talk about something else, happy to. All right. It's called The Alpha and the Omega for Greg Guys. Aristotle says that prime matter is whatever already was and was always already, which, I will remind you, it was the nearest thing ancient Greeks had to grits. It conformed to whatever they ladled over it. I hear it's still served in New Orleans with a cream gravy, never that tomatoey shit. Here, in the middle path, we always bitch at weathermen, like false Elijahs. We, on our woo-weezy way, in our non-ado acts, the drinking, the driving to Houston. Lay waste to the sagebrush in the sand. Hump the dunes in Chinese APCs, which break down, and which, as the Buddha says, mechanics both fix and do not fix. Lord, make of our lives an ordered accounting, an unbalanced checkbook, people and gratitude, what is left to us after us, not supplication, merely being tidy. We stayed in bed until dawn, the sun maintaining its orbit as long as could be expected, ultimately confirming the status is still quo. There remains providence in each fallen sparrow. If it ain't fitting to come now, it's still fitting to come. My last poem to Greg. So again, we talked about earlier how he had brain cancer, and so this is kind of, I guess I'll go from the beginning, I guess, maybe. So Greg was also a philosopher who was also an Anglican, an ordained Anglican minister for a while, and then became a world-class, very great investment banker for many different countries. And then after that, he retired. We got a PhD in philosophy then after that. And then he retired and became a poet. And that's when I met him, when he was already done that stuff and was a poet. So we had a joke about like what Aristotle's prime matter, like the thing that was at the very beginning, like because Aristotle was a pagan, didn't believe in God, right? But that there was something in the beginning that everything came out of this kind of this like cosmic ooze, right? And so it could become anything. And so I, just living in Atlanta in the South, always thought like that's more or less what grits are. You can put grits on anything. You can put grits on biscuits. You can put grits on shrimp. You can put grits on tomatoes. And like whatever you put the grits on, the grits kind of fit around, and the grits kind of also start tasting like. So that was my little clever metaphor there. It conforms to whatever they ladle. Also, not only does it conform to the biscuit shape, but then you put like sauce on it, it conforms to that too. Also, they make some grits with tomato sauce somewhere. I think in Charlotte, North Carolina, they do. Not a fan. It's gotta be the creamy stuff. I had some grits with tomato. I was like, what is this? I don't even know. So that was just a personal thing too. So the middle path is both like the Jesus thing, the path of Jesus, right? The walk in the middle road. Also Buddha. Also Muhammad to some extent. Also the Tao Te Ching, the non-action action, being in the middle way. Also Aristotle virtue, right? Of properly understood virtue is not being too much of one thing. Like there's a such thing as being cowardly, right? We don't want to be cowardly. But there's a such thing as being way too courageous and bold that you're an idiot and around the battlefield getting killed. So neither of those, being a freaking hard-headed moron or being a coward, is virtuous. Virtue is everything understood in a proper balance. It is that middle way. And again, I was making fun of the weathermen, how, you know, because we're in the way trying to look at it both ways, right? Like, okay, yeah, it's not that, but like, the weathermen are always like, oh yeah, it'll be 65 and sunny tomorrow, full of snow. Oh yeah, it'll be, it'll rain for 3 days. There's like 1 day of snow, whatever. And so it's just like, so the whole idea about like the middle path, the Wuizi is the confluence between good and evil in like a kind of yin yang kind of thing for both Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism, as well as some Freeland Buddhism and some some Taoist principles, right? And Nana Do is the not acting act. It's the foundational principle of Taoism, of the Tao Te Ching, is you should act so as to not act, meaning like whatever act you should take, you should try to take it to influence the world around you as little as possible and not for your own reasons. So the proper action is a non-ado act. That's not selfless in the same way you think about I'm doing it for somebody else, but is in I'm going to do as much as I can to not influence the world, the people, or whatever around me, because I could be negatively influencing them, right? That's the idea of the middle way and the middle path. And then kind of the flip on that too, the drinking, the driving to Houston. When I was there, I was flying out after I went to his house after his he got the brain tumor. I went out to see him, and they were going to Houston for a doctor appointment. Also, I was flying out of Houston, and so we all drove to Houston together. And he and his wife were tying one off in the car. I'm like, I guess if you got brain cancer, I got 2 weeks to live. Whatever. I was in the back seat, like, it's gonna be really interesting. So that's what that's about. It was a great time though. And then again, he had this big ranch out there that he also let his son inherited it now. So the little kid who drew the picture on the book has this ranch he loves, has a swimming pool he loves, his favorite cactus, his favorite things. Greg's buried out there. It's awesome. And so like he had a Chinese APC that we couldn't fire. We were driving around his land and it broke down. And he's like, I got a guy that can fix this. He fixes Chinese APCs. They're like, cool. So we called him out there and he's like, okay, it's fixed now. We drove it like 5 more feet, broke down again. So he was like, well, maybe I don't know how to fix Chinese stuff. Sorry, bro. And so it's just kind of a joke about like the Buddha says like things both do and do not, like do this but do not do that. Like it's this duality thing, right? So the mechanic says he fixes it and doesn't fix it. That's kind of clever. Well, I guess the last thing I'll say here, right, is when Greg called me to let me know he was going out, he had the brain tumor. Right before I left the day after that, he apparently had to go and have emergency surgery, and he had like a he died on the table for like 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, he had a out-of-body experience or whatever, but not when he was looking down at his body. Like he thought, I mean, I believe that he did, go to the afterlife. He was telling me about, he was sobbing, of course, and was on meds too, and I was like sobbing my eyes out too. And I remember very specifically what he said. He's like, Aaron, you wouldn't believe it, Aaron. He's like, but what's left after everything? Everything goes away. Everything goes away. The only thing that's left are people. The people that you know, and all your gratitude for having gotten to know them, because they are children of God. Like, he didn't experience anything other than just flashes of all the people, and had this deep abiding sense of how grateful he was, even if maybe he didn't like some of them, just for having come into contact with them, and for his life connecting with other humans. And that's what he said something to the effect of like, that's what left. He's like, that's what left. I was dead. I was dead. I was there for a while. I was there for a while. And what's left? And he said, is the people, the love, and the gratitude. And then he got pulled back. And I mean, I kind of believe him. And then 2.5 years later, after further some surgeries and stuff, he ended up actually passing. He has not reached out via Ouija board or parcel post to let me know what it's like now, but I'm sure he's up there doing good. But I think it just touched me, so I wanted to, again, this poem's for him. And so, the last thing about this poem at least, is there remains providence in each fallen sparrow. So there's a line from Hamlet that says, okay, Horatio's like, they're screwing okay, dude, they're rigging this duel. You're going to go fight Laertes, and he's going to murder you. Like, it's a plot. It's a plot. Don't do it, Horatio. Don't do it, Hamlet, you moron. What are you thinking? And Hamlet says, he's like, oh, Horatio, there is a sudden providence in a fall of a sparrow. If it's not now, then it is to come. If it's not to come, then it is now. But it will come. It's the idea that it doesn't matter. We're none of us, I hate to tell you folks, none of us are making it out of this world alive. We are food for worms. We are going to be pushing up daisies someday. If it's not now, and it's not now for all of us, I'm not thinking it will be, at least. And God bless you all. Happy health, long lives, productive lives, with lots of friends and family and comfort. But if this moment right now, if I'm gonna go fight a duel or a meteor is gonna drop on my head, even if it's not this moment that I'm gonna die, then I'm going to die. Because the one certain thing is it will come. If it's not now, then it will come. If it's not to come, then it will be now, but it will come. And so I just kind of put that into kind of some more like redneck Southernese kind of language that I speak to kind of hammer that home. All right, let's see what we got time for one more. See, anybody want one more? Anybody want to say one more in the chat? Who's not a mod? Does mods? I'm sure you say mod one more. I'm always slave driver mod. Let's see here. I don't have any other Greg stuff queued up, but I'll do one of my own. I'll do this one then. I don't know. Dang it. Okay, this one. We'll do the god. Let me do one more. Okay. The goddess stalks the land. We'll do. All right. Let me make sure it's in biggin. The goddess stalks the land, weapon in hand, a minaret, a reservoir of will, carries a fault line, fixing our position in the solar system, scribbles on the chest of midnight, cuts the twilight out of her palms, steals the morning's shoes and outruns whatever will come, becomes a cloud, the noon sun becomes a ruin, prophets will despair. She sits silent at the crossroads, erasing scientific equations, wiping formulas from the forehead of time. After each footprint was erased from the dust, the wind grew still as hush. So that's just like the idea that it's not really trauma or whatever, it's mythology writing, really. This idea that like we don't know crap. Us humans are so dumb. We don't know crap. Like an actual legit like Greek goddess like Thor, kind of like, you know, Zeus, Odin, Osiris, whoever, you know, Mars, comes down here, Venus, right? Comes down to America current day, right? Like, what's she gonna do? Like, she's gonna be, because we're so stupid. We think we know E equals MC squared. We think we know Pluto's a planet. Now it's not a planet. We think we know, you know, gravitational pull and string theory and stuff, right? Like, if she's an omniscient god, she comes down here and like she's controlling like weather and stuff. She's a minaret and She comes down with like a scimitar, I'm imagining, right? She's like a reservoir of will. She's not happy. She's carrying a fault line. She's making earthquakes, and she's like fixing arcs. Like she's like, here, actually, guess what? The Earth is not rotating around the sun today because I'm a god. So boom, guess what? We're stuck today, guys. Right? And then scribbles on the chest of midnight and cuts twilight. Like she can like make it like all the Greek god powers, the Roman god powers, the Egyptian god powers, right? And then becomes the sun. And the one I love the most, so there's the crossroads, right? And the crossroads in like Southern mythology again, or maybe in like folk mythology in general, are both like where you're, you know, where you have a decision to make, but also like you meet the devil at the crossroads, like in Georgia, devil went down in Georgia type stuff. You find the crossroads in Mississippi, you meet the devil, you want to sell him your soul, you can become a blues musician, something like that. But the goddess sits at the crossroads, but she's not, you know, the devil or whatever. She's like wiping out all of our scientific equations from memory, from like she's like, you know what, the whole like Zeno's paradox, you know Euclid's fourth postulate. No, we're not gonna do those. Don't actually work really, and some of them have been proven not to work, right? So she's just like, no. I'm sitting at the crossroads with the devil here. I'm just wiping out all the bull crap you people have made up. And then like as that happens, as they're erased, right, the wind settles down because the crossroads when the devil's there, right? The wind's whipping around tornado like it's like apocalyptic lightning and stuff. So she's wiping out the bad equations. Humans have been riding it kind of, you know, the wind grows as still as hush. I think that's sufficient for tonight, folks. I really do. Let me pull myself up here. I really do appreciate you all for everything. Thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for making this a thing. You have in the description on all the channels links to a Dropbox for all the poems that have been shared here. Intellectual property has been waived on them. Use them for what you want. Greg Geiss's poems, my poems, Greg Murray's poems that you've seen today. There's also a Dropbox that has a copyright essay called How to Read Poetry by T.S. Eliot. Click the Dropbox links down there in the description. It's free. Download it, keep it on your phone, and have a read of it. Maybe you'll learn to like poetry a bit more, or think about how to read it in a better way. There's also a Dropbox link on there too. If you feel like, you know what, I want to write a poem. I don't care what it's about. I don't care if it's a sonnet, an epic. I don't care if it's about your cat Freckles who got his tail cut in a horrible lawnmower accident and now he only has half a tail and it's very sad for him. I don't care. Or if you want to write a poem about, you know what, Freckles was always peeing all over the house, so I'm glad his tail's gone or he's gone. Or like what? If you want to write any poem at all, there's a Dropbox link. Drop something in it. Upload a poem you've written if you want feedback on. I'll give you feedback. I've been editor of poetry journals. I can give you like, okay, this is good, this is bad. I'll also actually look at the words you use and say, oh, I see what you're doing here. Thought about this, try this maybe, and just like kind of guide y'all if you want to start to like just thinking about the poetry a bit more. And like if you begin crafting poetry on the daily or the weekly, I promise you, the way you interact and engage with the world, if you like consider richness of language and the way you're looking about things more poetically, like you will have different experiences. You'll be like, you'll think about things in different words in your daily basis. The guy chat at the water cooler will be, I don't know, a buffoon instead of an asshole. Or that's a very basic example, but you'll see the color of chartreuse that your new coworker just dyed her hair a little different and more vividly than you did before. You try to not just read and write, not just read poetry, understand it, but also write poetry and play with the words. Send them in. I'm happy to do it. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. Please do. If you're hearing this on replay, send in a poem to that link. It's your poem. I'm not going to publish it and put in a collection of poems that say, like, change the title and be like, oh, this is a great poem. Ha, 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 ha. Not going to do that. Swear to God, no worries. Last thing is also, if you don't have Dropbox or Google Drive, there is the info at Angels Inspired Inc. that's in the comments there. You can also just email the poem there. I would put attention poem attached just so we know it's that and not some one in China trying to sell us a warranty on our car. Further than that, like and subscribe to channels if you can. Like and subscribe and follow the Angels Inspired Facebook group, because more events will be coming out there. I hope y'all like Greg. Like I said, we just reconnected after moving across the country from each other, a lot of crazy stuff. So obviously he loved it. I enjoyed his time, and we're going to try to do more of poetry things, not for National Poetry Month till next year, but just poetry stuff, maybe author interviews or something with him and other people I know that do poetry stuff in the future. So stay tuned. There'll always be a link up to the stuff. I'll be doing other, meaningful / list things. Like I'll be posting more bar prep questions and going over. I'll be doing live bar prep and going over the answers and why I got them wrong and how stupid I think the bar questions are and why I think they're idiots. Things like that in the near future. Is there any question from anybody else about anything at all? Any chat, mod, anyone out there in TV land, YouTube land, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, anything? All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great remainder of your National Poetry Month. And even if you're not from this nation, I still hope you have a great National Poetry Month. I love you all so much. Thank you for your time. God bless you. I think poetry, like I said before, connects us to language and languages of God. It connects us to God. It connects us to each other. It helps us understand stuff. So, I'm really serious about taking my poetry serious, not in a mean way, but in I believe in this stuff. I believe in the power of words to communicate, to heal, and as we do that, to know more about ourselves and to know how we do stuff in the world or should be doing it. How we become less detestable pieces of crap who are deserving of a whipping and maybe worthy of some grace and maybe worthy of some salvation if we keep at it. I love you all. Keep writing. God bless you. I'll talk to you next time.